Hello again, everyone. This is Dan back with another video. And I wanted to make one final kind of comment on the Love is Love Until She Loves Someone Else video that I made. Um, I think there's one final important aspect, one final topic that goes along with what I discussed about women being able to transfer their love a lot more easily than what men can do, and that men tend to see women as individuals, and many other MGTOW, of course, have covered this as well, that men see women as individuals, even if men are tempted sexually by other women that they don't really care about. They have sort of a tendency, men have a tendency to unconditionally love the women that they're in relationships with, whereas women, due to what was advantageous for women throughout the history that we have as a species, have tended to be conditional with how they apply love. It's not that they consciously think about it in that way, but ultimately that's the result because women who didn't leave their man who died in battle and go off and have a family with another man, women who dated men who couldn't provide for them and couldn't take care of their children and couldn't protect them, those women tended to die off, while women who made certain that they were with a man who could take care of them, or at least had the best chance of doing so, women who were willing to monkey branch, were willing to forget the former husband or former partner that they had and ultimately go off with another man and create a family with him potentially. These are the ones that were more successful at reproducing. So this is what we have by and large with men and women today. Whereas the opposite from a developmental perspective is true of men, that men who actually stayed and actually had an incentive to take care of their children, they had a better chance of their genes being spread, or of having successful offspring, I should say. And love, unconditional love, was the mechanism by which that could happen. It didn't make sense for a man to just monkey branch. If a man could afford to take another wife, he would, and if he couldn't, then he wouldn't. But men had an incentive to actually stay with the women and that they married or that they had, kind of a permanent relationship with. But women didn't really have any sort of benefit in doing this, and that's why you see the differences between men and women in love. And that's kind of just that's a partial overview of the Love is Love video that I made. But I think there's another important aspect here, like I mentioned, and that is that love itself is now conditional. Even though men have a tendency and a capacity to see women as individual people who are worth, having a permanent relationship with, and even though men, while they may be tempted with sex, really see the women that they're with as individual people who are worth taking care of, our society in general makes it just not sane, basically, to be with women in this kind of way. And in the MGTOW community, we know this. MGTOWs realize that you can't really get married to a woman without taking on a ridiculous amount of risk. MGTOW realize that you can't really have children in a society that will take away those children and give them to the woman and take half your stuff or throw you in jail for not making a child support payment. But you're still expected to make those payments. You're still expected to take care of the family that you're no longer welcome to be a part of. So we, in one sense, we realize that it's very foolish to tie your finances with a woman. It's very foolish to have this kind of permanent relationship with a woman. But the other side to the coin on this is that the effect on love is that love is essentially conditional. Even if you're a man, it has to be conditional. Men don't have the authority to lead in the relationship anymore. They don't really have the ability to prevent shit tests other than just putting up with it until you as a man kind of put your foot down and either decide that, the woman's going to listen to you, or you're going to leave, or you just sit there and let her, just kind of like run all over you like a doormat. Men don't have the authority to lead the relationship anymore. They don't have the authority to end the childish shit that women like to do very often in relationships, to test the man and his resolve and how, much of a willingness he has to stand up for himself. And there's also nothing that a man can do to prevent a woman from monkey branching. And as I discussed with a lot more depth in the Love is Love video, um, women tend to do this like crazy today because even though in the past, it was actually good for the human species for women to be able to, find a new man if she needed to, it's no longer a question of need. It's now, oh, this other guy's more alpha. This other guy has more money. This other guy does more for me. I'll just go off with him, or I'll cheat on you and I'll cuck you and I'll make you take care of kids that aren't yours because the legal system makes you do this, if you get married to me. And so this is what men have to deal with today. And this is essentially the power that women have over men in relationships. And as a result, men, they don't have any control. They can't lead in the relationship. They can't move it in the right direction in a way that would potentially represent unconditional love or a permanent bonding between a man and a woman, between two people in a relationship. Men can't do this. They don't have the control or the ability anymore. So, what I wanted to add here is that as a man, if you're not going monk and you are still going to date or consider relationships or just have, you know, any sort of serious dealings with women in your personal life, especially in a romantic sense, you have to realize your position. And your position is that the only power that you have left, since the actual authority that men once had in relationships to, try to prevent a woman from sleeping around or, from taking her love and transferring it to another man, basically, as I discussed before. A man could basically, you know, tell the woman what was going to happen in the relationship, that you were going to live in a certain place, or that she was going to do certain things for you around the house, or you would be able to lead the relationship in the sense of basically having all the authority, or at least the vast majority of authority, in determining your future with her. But now you don't have any of that. And you as a man basically have no recourse other than to end the relationship when certain conditions are no longer met. Whether she's monkey branching and she's no longer giving you her love, which in that case you definitely need to end the relationship that you have with her, because you're not getting anything from it that's positive at that point. Or it could involve, her just refusing to do anything other than argue with you, her not respecting you. Like I mentioned, her shit testing you constantly, trying to see how far she can push you before, you'll either get angry or you'll just kind of collapse and let her do whatever she wants to you. You as a man have no defense against this. There's effectively nothing you can do except leave. And you have to accept that you know, women basically run the show in terms of, any sort of permanent relationship that you could potentially have. That's why it's better to go MGTOW. That's why it's better not to get into, any sort of relationship where you lose your power as a man. And that's essentially what I'm saying here, is that you have to be prepared to end the love that you give a woman. Men still have a tendency, of course, like I've mentioned, to love unconditionally, to see each woman that they care about as individuals, throughout their history, or, in terms of the relationships that they're in now. Not in the sense of being polygamous, but in the sense of, valuing different women who are in your life for whatever reasons, whether it's a relationship partner or a friendship, or whatever. But you have to realize that, especially when it comes to romantic relationships, it is always conditional with a woman. It has to be, by its nature, because when you have this approach that you're just going to love a woman no matter what, that you're going to be there for her no matter what, you put yourself in a position to fail, because she can just take advantage of that. And even if she loves you today, even if she really wants in her mind a permanent relationship with you as a man, or, at the very least, a long term connection with you as her boyfriend or whatnot, she could change her mind tomorrow. She could change her mind a week from now. She could change her mind next year, 5 years, 10 years down the road. It doesn't matter. And when she changes your mind, you as a man are left powerless unless you realize that the relationship itself and the love that you give for a woman is conditional. It has to be. And I understand you can't control your feelings. I understand that as a man, like I say, you have it within you to love one woman for your whole life. Even if you find other women to be sexy and you'd have sex with other women in an ideal world, you as a man, in many cases, maybe not every single guy, but you have it within you to take care of one particular woman, to want to support one particular woman and have kids with her and be happy with her. And the reality is, and a lot of MGTOW men realize this, that you can't have this kind of permanent relationship. You can't have unconditional love for a woman. There are conditions that have to be met. She has to do something for you. She has to respect you. She has to give 100% of herself, and this is very rare to see at all today. But even if you find a woman who's like this now, and who in her mind really does want some sort of permanent unconditional relationship with you, the reality is that that relationship that you may have is not unconditional, because she can change her mind at any time. She can use the social and legal systems against you. She can destroy your life if you put yourself in a vulnerable enough position, either through a false accusation or just, using your kids against you, or whatever the case may be. The woman has all the power in a relationship. And because women see relationships as conditional, you as a man are forced to see it that way as well. So if you want to date, if you want to consider having, you know, whether anything from a fling to a relationship that can last for years, you have to realize that she can come along for the ride, but she's not the ride itself. That's something that the Dark Knight said a couple years ago when he was making MGTOW videos, and his channel's long gone now. But she's not the ride itself. She can't be. The love that you have for her has to be conditional, because if it's not, she can use the power that she has in the relationship to completely destroy you. So I know you can't control your feelings as a man, like I said. I know that you may love a woman long after you actually stop talking to her, or you accept that a relationship is over, but you have to still be able to take that step. When a relationship has expired and there's really nothing you can do because the woman doesn't respect you, she's gone off with some other dude, and I've experienced this where, I wanted to continue to love that person, but you can't. It's like emotionally that's still going to be there. You're still going to have the feelings that you have, but you have to be able to stop actually doing for her. You have to stop doing the things that, men have typically done for the women that they love. You have to take away that love, move on with your life, and realize that, any relationship that you enter into with a woman is based on certain conditions. And when those conditions aren't met anymore, it's time for you as a man to move on, because there is no avoiding this in the society that we have today that makes it to where love itself is a conditional kind of thing.